Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this video we would be discussing about deadlocks. So let us first understand in what kind of resources we will face the issue of deadlock. So there might be resources that are shareable, but there are a lot of resources that are non-shareable, such as printers. So in case of non-shareable resources, we usually see deadlock. So let's understand what deadlock means. Let's say we have a process P1 and we have a process P2 and we have a resource R1 and a resource R2. Now let's say that P1 is holding R1 and P2 is holding R2. And let's first write this is P1 is holding R1 and P2 is holding R2, and P1 is waiting for R2 to respond, and P2 is waiting for R1 to respond. Now since P1 is holding R1, so P2 won't be able to access R1 until P1 releases it, and P1 will release it only when R2 will respond to it. But we see that P2 is holding R2 and it's waiting for R1, which P1 will not be releasing until R2 is hit. So we can see that it's a lock, it's locked here. So this is known as deadlock, where P1 is waiting for R2, but R2 won't be released until P1 releases R1. So neither P1 will release R1 nor R2 will be responding to it. So that's what a case of deadlock is. Now we will need to understand the 4 necessary conditions for deadlock, which is first one is mutual exclusion, which means that the resource should be non-shareable. Then hold and wait. So hold and wait should be a condition, as we saw that P1 was holding R1 and was waiting for R2. So hold and wait should be there. Then no preemption. Now this preemption is not similar to the preemption we studied for processes. This preemption is about resource. So this should basically be no resource preemption. So this preemption is talking about resource preemption. Now what is no resource preemption? So basically once OS has assigned a resource to a process, it cannot take it back. So that is no resource preemption. Now circular wait, as we saw here that it's a circular wait, like P1 is waiting for R2 and R2 is held by P2 and P2 is waiting for R1, which is held by P1. So now let's understand this with 3 processes and resources. So what will happen? I mean, how will deadlock be there? So this is P3 and this is R3. So let's say R1 is held by P1, which is waiting for R2, which is held by P2, which is waiting for R3, which is held by P3, which is waiting again for R1. This graph that we draw is known as resource allocation graph. So here also we can see that a circular wait has been, like P1 is waiting for R2, which won't be released by P2 until it gets R3, and R3 won't be released by P3 until it gets R1, and R1 won't be released until P1 gets R2. So now it's a circular wait here as well. So this is something that we will be facing the problem of deadlock. Now first of all, a few important points to be noted about resource allocation graph, because this is used in DBMS as well, that processes are represented by circles and resources are represented by squares. Now after we do this, there might be a representation of resources where we have 3 instances or more than 2 instances. So we show it like this. Let's say that this instant is held by P1, this instant is held by P2, this instant is held by P3, and P4 is waiting for this resource. Let's say this resource is R1 and P4 is waiting for this resource to respond. So this is how we will represent when we have a resource allocation graph in which one of the resources has multiple instances. So that's it for this video. We'll meet in the next video with a new topic.